Hey guys, we're flying casual. I'm James Rosile, joined along with Andrew.
Hi, that's me.
Tasia and Josh Lucas. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Look, I'm flying casually.
Oh, look at that. Is that the Enterprise?
No, this is actually a Z95, which is Ugly from Legends. It's a Black Sun ship from Fantasy Flight's X-Wing. Yeah, it's a cool game.
Nice.
That's impressive that you had that on hand. I've got, I have a selfie stick on hand. So
yeah, well, this is my selfie stick. It's not very functional. I stick my camera on there and it just falls over.
It falls off. But then you lift it up with the Force. All right, guys. So this weekend was D23 in Anaheim. I want to say it was in Anaheim. I was away all weekend, so I was checking things up as it went along. The one thing that I've been hearing a lot of is the Lucasfilm portion was a disappointment.
Really?
Yes, this is what I've been reading online. From what I saw, it was basically, I wouldn't say disappointment, but it was basically everything that we were told we were going to get. We got. There was no Han Solo anything, really. And then there was no second trailer, but we did get that sizzle reel. Josh, I believe you were covering D23 pretty intensively. What would you?
Yes.
How would you rate the overall Lucasfilm's portion of D23?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely much softer than the Infinity War bombshell they dropped on everyone, which kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know. I wouldn't say I was disappointed by what came out of Star Wars, but it's pretty much what we expected, right? Like, the behind the scenes. There's wild speculation about, look, as Star Wars fans, that's what we do. We dig in, we speculate. There were people saying, well, maybe they're going to announce this other standalone movie just to kind of be like, forget about this Han Solo thing. That didn't happen. They didn't really address anything when it comes to Han Solo. So I don't know. Personally, I wasn't disappointed. I thought the Sizzler reel was awesome. So that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, Andrew, we did a video a couple months ago about how we thought that there might be on that day on Saturday, that Lucasfilm's panel, that we might get the announcement of a new standalone film. But you think maybe everything that has happened with Han Solo, how that was big news. Do you think that maybe curbed them from saying, hey, maybe this isn't the time to announce another movie? Let's get our crap together on what we have, and when that's settled, then we can announce what's going forward. Or do you think they were never planning to announce a standalone film?
No, that makes sense, to kind of make the sizzle reel kind of the balm that we all needed after the Han Solo incident. Because Kathleen has talked a few times about hoping to have an announcement in the summer regarding the third spin-off film. And I think that they pretty much are ready to go forward with it, whatever it is. It's just a matter of, the right timing. Disney's been really good so far with announcing everything at the right moment. Just because we all want it at a certain time doesn't mean that's necessarily the best time we should get it. And they've really been playing their cards smartly. I was kind of hoping for one, because that's just me, just because I was like, please tell me about the Kenobi movie. Yeah. But obviously that didn't happen. But that's cool. I would rather wait a little bit longer for that, and I would also rather wait a little bit longer for a more extensive trailer as well. I'm kind of glad we just got a sizzler.
Yeah, Josh, do you want to see another Last Jedi trailer? Are you happy with? We're gonna get one, but are you happy with where we are right now?
Oh, that's it. Yeah. We're not getting another trailer.
Yeah, I heard they just kind of canceled that movie anyways. They were like, it's not that good.
Well, they fired Ryan Johnson.
Oh, shit.
they brought in Clint Eastwood.
That's funny to say that, the Eastwood role. It's interesting. I want more Last Jedi, but I think the timing's just perfect. We didn't necessarily need more story stuff. Let us wonder about that line hanging from Orlando. You know what I mean? We're all still wondering what that means exactly. And I think that that's brilliant. The one thing that the trailer reinforced was the fact that this is going to be very different. They're challenging status quo with this movie, and everybody is kind of I think I said in my reaction video something like, I get this nervous feeling Like, I literally get this nervous feeling like, oh my goodness, what did they do exactly? Because everybody's throwing around words like shocking, or, Hamill, again on the Sizzler, I think said, once I think I know everything about a story, and they throw a complete curveball at me, right? So I think that that's perfect. Just put that point a little more forward. You know what I mean? Talk about that. Plus, this movie is probably the crown jewel in the new Lucasfilm Star Wars era. I mean, we're prejudging it, but the vibe I get from, when we were in Orlando together, like, man, it really seems like they are hype on this story. They're hype on this continuation of the Star Wars franchise. And they've got the goods, so there's no need for them to just keep flashing it about. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a perfect piece of promotion for the time. You know what I mean? I don't think we needed anything else.
Andrew, is this going to be the best Star Wars movie to date?
Not as good as the Battle for Endor, but it's going to be up there. And you're right. You mentioned something, Josh, in your video that you did on the sizzle reel about how they do keep bringing up this whole like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened in this script. And you mentioned something about a possibility of like if they kill Luke, and I'm just the thought of that just like makes me want to curl up into a ball. So I hope that never happens. But yeah, something big is coming in this, and I don't mean big from like, Galactus is going to show up. I mean big as in like we are going to, what Star Wars is in our brains is going to change a little bit.
Yeah, I'd agree 100% with that. That's my concern. I mean, it's beautiful because that's what we need.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah.
I don't know if Luke can die this soon after Han Solo died, because then it feels like you're just picking them off one by one through each movie. Yeah. I think if he's going to go in 9. But the one thing you did bring up in your video, though, was how much they're all wanting us to understand that this movie is not a rehash of Empire Strikes Back. They all want us to know that this is brand new. It is refreshing. There are twists and turns, which I think diminishes the twists.
A little bit, right?
Yeah. If you're like, this movie's going to shock you, there's a huge twist, then you go into it and it's not a twist because you know that there's a twist.
Right.
Now it's just so that kind of got me. Josh, what do you think the odds of this movie being the reverse Empire Strikes Back? It starts off with I Am Your Father and works its way backwards to a battle on Crate, which is the Battle of Hoth, and that's when we end at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back.
It's totally possible. I think the big distinction between this movie and Empire is that, like, when they were making Empire, I think the goal was really to take what had really become like a pop cultural phenomenon. Like, I don't think, like, look, you read the Lucas stuff, and he did not have it all figured out. It wasn't as though he was like, all right after this, we know we're going to Empire. This is going to be crazy. So I think what Empire is sort of them taking these characters that became pop culturally super relevant and just doing a really great movie, a really great kind of story with those characters in that world. And I think as opposed to that with Last Jedi, you have this pantheon now of an entire world and characters and themes and situations and all these different things that people are not only aware of but attached to. And I think that the big difference is going to be in scope. So like Empire is not about, or rather, I think The Last Jedi is not going to be about Rey, like wholly. I don't think it's about Ben Solo wholly. I don't think it's about Luke wholly. It's about this larger galaxy. And I think that the thing they're going to do is have the I'm your father moment, but like for Star Wars. So it'd be like if Star Wars was a figure, if you could anthropomorphize Star Wars, which is a big fancy word of like making it a thing. And I think Rick and Morty, let's just say it's Rick, right? So Star Wars is Rick. And then you have someone else literally say to Rick, I'm your father, right? That's the kind of moment I think that we're going to have. It's going to be in scope way bigger than Luke realizing that Vader is his father, which is arguably one of the craziest moments in cinema. But I think this is that's the slight difference. I think that it'll hold to those themes and it's going to be darker, but I think that it's going to be way crazier than Empire. That's just my opinion, though.
Oh, I think so too. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
It's definitely going to be. I don't think any hardcore Star Wars fan is going to come out of that movie saying, "I knew that was going to happen." No matter how into it, no matter how many teak tattoos this person has, they won't know.
What if Teak is the evil Sith Lord?
That's
Teak Snoke. That'd be kind of cool, right?
Teak is Snoke.
He's the sort of like the judgment point. Like that's how you measure how much of a fan somebody is, with how many teak tattoos they have. But this movie is definitely going to shake everything up, and it's weird because now we got to think going forward, our movies. We're going to assume Star Wars movies are going to be more like what The Last Jedi is going to be. And, you think about 10 years down the line, are we going to end up with more movies like that than we have to date of what we're familiar with? So it's kind of interesting. It'll be cool to look back when all's said and done and like map out the changes. I've got a question for you, Josh. I've already asked this of James, and James told me I was dumb when I asked him this.
But I say that to him based on every question he's ever asked.
Nice.
Might have just been saying it. But considering everything that seems to be packed into this movie, and considering how many more movies are coming, just the amount of content, the amount of actors and characters we're seeing, do you think we are ever, maybe in Last Jedi or maybe in the future, do you think we'll ever see the day where we get a Star Wars movie that is as long as a Lord of the Rings movie?
I would venture to say, well, remember what JJ said back in the day? He said the first cut that he had of Force Awakens was like 346 or something. So yeah, and he said, what's funny is he said he almost showed it to the studio because it worked, in his words.
Wow.
Yeah. So like, do I think so? I think there's probably already been cuts like similar to that, right? But it's all about, then you get into the business side. And to her credit, this is why Kathy Kennedy is so great, because she can understand the business side and the story kind of element thing. Mm-hmm. And like, look, you just can't have a movie that long, like not for theatrical release. You need showings. You need to get those people in there, especially like these days with pirating and stuff. You really have a 3 to 4 week window there where the quality on the Fire Stick, like, let's just be real, the quality on the Fire Stick's so bad that people still are going to go to the theater. That's your window. As soon as the quality of the Fire Stick goes up, it's over. You know what I mean? Your box office is going to drop dramatically. And so in order to hit those numbers, they need a shorter film. But something you made me kind of think of this when you were asking that question, because I think that although The Last Jedi is going to be like totally jam-packed with new characters. I mean, James, we were talking about this before we went on air. So many aliens that we've never seen before. But I think what's interesting is that's mostly background. Like, I do not think we're going to spend a lot of time there. It's just that, it's Star Wars. They're able to do this. It's a filled out, fleshed out thing, which could be revealed in books. It's definitely going to be in the art book. You know what I mean? So they found interesting ways to kind of arbitrage the work that they put into this stuff because they love it. And I think that's where Ryan's at. He's like, I love this stuff. I want to create all this stuff. But as far as through the lens, it's mere seconds, moments, minutes, like it's, to me, I think that's awesome. But I don't know if that kind of answers your question a little bit. Like, I don't think we'll get it to be that big. Like, Lord of the Rings is like, it's epic literature that's being adapted. That's one of the greatest things about Star Wars, in my opinion, is it's film. You know what I mean? It's not an adaptation. It's film. These are film stories. So, sort of yes, sort of no. I don't know. That's kind of where my head goes with it. But it was cool. You made me think of that. I was like, man, yeah.
Andrew, to get the length of it, Andrew and I shot a movie together. He starred in it, and it's 2 hours, that film, and the first cut of that was 4.5 hours. Just so you know.
Oh, dude, I remember in film school,
I would not show that to anybody.
The editing, well, it's just crazy. Like, the filmmaking process is really a reductionary process. Like, and they come together in post, which is why, like, James, you and I have kind of talked about Justice League a little bit here and there on the Nerdy News Hour and stuff. And that's why I think that, like, Joss's role in that is so underplayed, because post is the movie. You make the movie in post. Like, Tarantino says that all the time. He's like, you abandon the script when you're in post. Like, you don't look at the script, you look at what you have with footage, you look at the movie you're making. You know what I'm saying?
With Justice League, I just wonder how far along in post they are.
That's totally fair. He was already involved, though, not to rehash our old conversations, but that's the
you
thing.
Can watch that.
Like, go watch that.
I will put a link somewhere to that one. So we all watched the Sizzle Reel. Brock and I will be doing a breakdown of that Sizzle.
It's gonna be old news, Brock. We're doing it here.
Full breakdown of the sizzle reel on episode 51 of the Rebel Scum podcast. But we've all heard, Josh, you mentioned it just earlier, that there will be some kind of giant twist, and you believe it has to do with Star Wars as a whole, which could be that Jedi are garbage as well. I think that's time for the Jedi.
These are thinking these are bomb bad Jedis, bro. But
I really think that Gungans are coming back in a big, big way.
Oh my God. Every night
awesome.
Is a Gungan.
Yeah, Snoke could be a Gungan. Yeah.
Snoke is a Gungan. But in the sizzle reel, we see what's his face? Adam Driver, aka Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo. He's rehearsing some choreography in a fight scene with two other stunt doubles. They might not be stunt doubles. They might be the actors in the film. But for this, we'll say stunt doubles. Then later on, we see Rey Daisy Ridley, a.k.a. Kira, a.k.a. Rey Skywalker, a.k.a. Rey Kenobi, also in a lightsaber fight with, I think it's 3 other people?
I think so. Yeah, I think I remember 3 blades coming down on hers.
So let's try to figure this one out now. Are they the same scene that they are rehearsing? Does Kylo Ren go rogue and fight off the Knights of Ren? Does Kylo Ren go rogue and maybe have that fight with stormtroopers, who we know are going to be having their super sticks or whatever they're called? Or is that Luke, Rey versus Kylo, and we're just not and those are the placements for Mark Hamill and Daisy Ridley? Andrew, I'll start with you.
No, I think that there's something greater at work here that the Rey thing especially makes me think Knights of Ren immediately, just because, come on, 3 opponents like that, I can't think of who else that might be. As far as the Kylo one goes, I'm thinking that it's the people he's fighting they at least include one of those guys. I think is the dude from the Force Vision that he stabs, that Rey sees that when she touches the saber. Right. I feel like that might have been from back in the day, because I don't know, I couldn't get a good look at his face in that quick shot, but did he have the scar? Because if not, that's a sure sign it's the flashback.
Well, it's just rehearsal, so he wouldn't.
Yeah, he wasn't in full costume.
He would not make it. We also know he could. There are those scenes where he's wearing. There are scenes in this breakdown where we see him wearing the mask, so he could even be wearing his mask in that scene also.
And several masks. What was up with that?
Yeah.
You guys think he's got a collection of those or something? Like what the hell?
Yeah, or molds that you just use as props, right? Because it is behind the scenes. Yeah, Josh.
And he just thought they looked really cool.
Yeah, he's like, I'm making this happen, and just like wearing Kanye West clothes, it doesn't make any sense, but just keep doing it, I guess. What's funny is I think that they could be maybe not the same scene, but they could be a bridge. And what I mean by that is like if Kylo is training with the Knights of Ren, or even those what are they called? The stormtroopers that have the things. The super
sticks.
The super sticks. The executioners with their super sticks. So let's just say he's training him. The scene that popped into my head is in Gladiator, where Commodus is fighting those dudes and just training, and Max just kind of walks by and sees him or whatever. So like that could be cool. He could just be training, keeping himself sharp. But what would be more interesting is if he's training with the Knights of Ren, and he's saying like, we're about to go face these 2 Jedi. One of them gave me this. The other one is arguably the strongest Jedi that there ever was. So y'all need to get your crap together, and this is how we're going to do it. And so I'd like to see that. And then you could, what I mean by a bridge is you could literally visually bridge that so that that scene then becomes the scene of them like fighting later on off too. So then Kylo shows up with the Knights of Ren, and they have this epic battle, which is, highly speculated. We saw some kind of photographs of this on Oct 2 already kind of spoiled. So we do know there's some kind of a confrontation there. But essentially, like, they could be kind of practicing for the same scene, which would be pretty stinking cool together. So,
you know what? That actually, when you said that, it kind of conjured this image in my head because of how we didn't really get to see this much in Force Awakens, but in a lot of Star Wars movies, we have those climax scenes where there's like 3 or 4 different battles going on in different areas, and we just keep cutting between them. What if we got something like that, but every one of those battles was a lightsaber battle.
Right. That's I think the most interesting thing is that in those shots from the Sizzler reel, those are clearly lightsabers that they're training against.
Yeah.
So it's like, but here's the other thing: the Knights of Ren, they have lightsabers, but they're not allowed to carry them. They're only the leader of the Knights of Ren is allowed to carry a lightsaber. That's why Kylo's the only one with one. So why? Like, I guess what I'm saying is, are they breaking that rule? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how are they able to use it in training, just not out in combat? You know, like we really don't know. It could be also Praetorian guards. What if he's fighting Praetorian guards with like shock weapons or something like that? But they really look like lightsabers. That's the confusing part.
You think we might see those swords at all? That might come into play? They
could. That would be really cool, and obviously from a toy perspective that would be awesome also, you know what I mean? So I could see it. I don't understand why we can't just have a ton more lightsabers. That's what I want, and I would like that Old Republic kind of era stuff kind of coming back with more sabers. What if that's Kylo Ren? Like you were saying flashback, James, what if that's him training with the Jedi? What if he's training with the Jedi? I'd love a scene with him in the past training with the Jedi, and they can all just kind of witness his prowess, and then he goes just a little too dark, and then Luke's like, no, you know what I mean? Like, don't do that.
Here's an idea to that, because it looks like he has this cross blade thing.
Yeah.
It looks like he's training with that. So let's say that is a flashback to when he is training with the Jedi. Does that mean he's had that same lightsaber since before turning to the dark side?
I'd say so.
Then and this, I don't know how I don't understand his crystal still, because for the crystal to turn red, he has to kill a Jedi, touch it, and then it bleeds red. But his isn't a true Sith crystal, right? Because it's it's jittery
what they
and stuff
said.
like that.
You're referring to the comic book that talks about the bleeding.
It's also in Ahsoka.
Yeah, it's in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I think that it's not as simple as killing a Jedi and taking their saber. Like, that's what the Emperor said to Vader, right? But the red tradition of sabers goes way past the Emperor. You know what I mean? It goes way deeper down the line than that. And I think that, like, the bleeding, the pain is what goes in there. So I guess what I'm saying is, getting the crystal from a Jedi is just probably like a Sith thing. It's kind of like, oh, in your face, Jedi. You know what I mean? The act of killing that Jedi doesn't necessarily create the pain that then they put into the crystal. And in the Ahsoka novel, it kind of makes it seem more like the crystals are sentient and they reject the Sith because the Sith are evil. So the Sith force their will onto the crystal, which causes them to bleed. But then in the comic book, it kind of more implies that they're like creatures, and when you put your pain into them, they absorb that and start to bleed because apparently they're a bunch of pussies. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the way that it reads in the comics. So I don't think it's as clear cut as that. What if because they said in the art book that the reason that it's cracked is a total like visual representation of his mind, that fact that he is cracked, so to speak. So what if that moment he turns and makes a decision, all his pain of like, why would they hide the fact that Vader was my grandfather? That caused me so much pain. And he puts it into the crystal, which cracks it. Maybe that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, beyond just bleeding, that thing probably, he broke his Kyber's heart. That's what I'm thinking.
I hope it's more than just, you lied about my grandfather, now I'm a bad guy, I'm going with Snoke. I hope it's more than that, because that is so weak to me.
Let me throw this at you. What if it's, I'm kind of evil, I kind of have an affinity for doing dark things. You've told me that's just bad and there's no reason for it, and I need to isolate that part of myself. But now I think that that's because I'm Vader's grandson, and because I have strong attachments to those same themes and things that he cared about. So more than him just being like a golden boy and then being like, well, Vader's my grandfather, I better Vader it up. It's more like, I've always been this way. You've never given me an explanation why, and you've hid this from me. Now I know why I've always been this way, and I'm feeling it, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Now everything starts to make sense.
Right.
Now, I have a mentor in a way that I didn't have before.
Right. And it's probably not pure, too, because we know Snoke was kind of whispering sweet nothings into his ear the whole time. So it's not even that it's necessarily true, but that could be his inner story. And Snoke could even kind of feed into that and be like, this is why they hid it from you.
That's a good snap.
I'm a Gungan.
Yeah, because he is a Gungan. What? So we know going into The Last Jedi there's going to be this giant, shocking revelation. Josh, is it going to be a twist or is it just going to be narrative and it's just going to play out? And there's not going to be a moment where we're all like, oh my God. But when it ends, we're going to be like, oh my God.
The twist is going to be that Snoke corrupted the Jedi Order long ago and that the Jedi Order was the most evil thing ever, unknowingly. And everything we've learned in 7 films or 8 films or whatever, that we've been worshiping the Jedi and thinking that they're good, is totally wrong, and that Snoke was playing them the whole time. And it's going to make us look at all the other films differently. And yeah.
Andrew, before I get to you on that, does that then make Snoke maybe too... Like, was Snoke's endgame to kill all the Jedi and somehow he failed with Luke being the last one?
Snoke's endgame was not just to destroy the Jedi, but to destroy what they meant, to destroy the idea of goodness being associated, like, with the Force. Like, I think his goal is a new world order, so to speak. But, you know, like, I'm just pulling this out of my butt right now. I have no idea. But just off the top, like, the way that I look at it is, like, to him, he probably the best villains think they're heroes. So he probably thinks that the Force is this pure thing. And then he literally probably thinks that the Jedi, by trying to associate all this goodness to the Force and only teach the one side, is actually what caused maybe chaos in the galaxy. And so he wants to destroy them as an ideology, not just as, like, people. You know what I mean?
Andrew? You have to one-up that one now.
Yeah.
I mean, would that make you cry? Like, you know what I mean? Like, think it, like, the Jedi, man, they screwed up. Like, think about that. That kind of belittles Master Yoda. It belittles kind of all of them, right? Like,
what if at some point we find... Sorry, Andrew, we will get to you. What if, like, at one point we find out through maybe Yoda that Yoda knew that this was happening? Maybe not during the prequels, but on his time on Dagobah. Maybe that's when he was like, oh, there's something was afoot here, and we were all played. We were all fools to this guy, Snoke. Thanks.
Could be possible. Andrew, what do you think about that? Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I think that I like the idea of sort of having everybody be misguided all these years. Even Yoda, maybe he was just drinking a whole different kind of Kool-Aid. And, we know Yoda, we know he had the best intentions at heart, but he just fell into the same lie that everybody else did, which would make for a great twist, B, a great sort of kind of dangling suspense, because, we're all thinking, how the hell do you right this ship now? That,
sure, exactly.
It's time for the Jedi to end.
That's my thoughts, right? If you're Luke and you're looking at that, you're like, well, we can't repair it. We just have to let it die. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that is irrevocable damage. The fabric of that thing, like, it's possible, because he said he's been around, right? To see the rise and fall of the Empire, right? Mm-hmm. And so, maybe he's not even talking about the Empire that we know. Maybe he's talking about, like, the Sith Empire, the Jedi Empire. Like, just, I don't know, man. It's an interesting thing too. And also my head kind of goes to the threat that Thrawn talks about, right? The threat in the unknown regions. And so, is that a different thing? Like, is Snoke worried? Man. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot that doesn't make sense in that equation, but I think that I think is the twist they're going to go for, is that the Jedi Order was not this pure thing. It wasn't. Yeah.
Well, yeah, here, like, that threat that you brought up in Thrawn, I mean, that's such a big big roadblock, because that threat could be Snoke, but if it's not, there's still that threat, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's, they're not just going to walk away from that now that they've established it. So maybe, if this is the case, if the Jedi were bad news bears, maybe that threat is the Jedi. Maybe they came from somewhere else, the originals.
That's interesting.
Jedi,
yeah.
And Snoke is like, I don't want these people back because these people are strong in the Force and they can undermine what I'm doing. And now all of a sudden you've got Luke and you've got the First Order and all these factions, and they're all going to have to deal with the fact that these ancient, powerful Jedi are coming to mess stuff up.
Yeah. One thing that just pops into my head too is the idea, the difference between the Guardians of the Wills and the Jedi, and the way that the Guardians of the Wills, they explain that the Force just flows and they flow with it. They don't manipulate the Force. They just do its bidding, so to speak. It's more like a Taoist kind of thing. And the Jedi were really, they manipulated the Force. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they used the Force instead of be used by it, which is kind of like a subtle difference, right? But, like, is that the problem? Is the problem that the Jedi were like, we see it as this way, and then we're going to use the Force to accomplish our goals? Like, to me, that could be the whole issue, right? The Force itself could be coming for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that title, The Force Awakens, suddenly becomes a very scary thing.
Exactly, because it's like a monster. And, maybe Snoke's the embodiment of that, the representation of that, the wills themselves. Like, it's literally like God coming down. You know what I mean? Like, it would be like God being like, well, you guys are using the power that I've given you and all this stuff, like, in just a wickedly corrupt way. And you totally don't understand. I should have never given you this power, and now I got to come and take it back. You know what I mean? It's kind of the thing. So, I don't know.
A badass way to end the whole saga, which is everyone dies.
Yeah. You'd sell a ton of toys.
Here's some ash. But then this is a great way for them to go back 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, and then you could tell us. Andrew and I are going to talk about this on, I think, next week's Unleashed or tomorrow's, I don't know, sometime, where you can go back and tell Knights of the Old Republic, because they're purposely not going that far back in any of the new canon. They're waiting for a shoe to drop. Once that shoe drops, they can go back and be like, here's the story that you need to fully appreciate this. And that's the Snoke thing. That's a great way to get them back into that time. And then you have an endless amount of time almost to tell stories in. You could go, like, if you make it 1,000 years, that's 1,000 years worth of stories right there that you could tell and never have to reboot it, never have to do anything. But then also, if you want to come back and you want to bring Rey back, you can always come back into the future and be like, here's a new story with Rey before we go back to the old ones.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely a possibility. It's the other thing, though, that kind of just gives me pause on that is that it really would seem as though the story group just kind of let Ryan tell his story, right? Like, he kind of claims that he had complete creative control. He came to them with this script and they were like, that's good, which implies that they didn't exactly have it figured out, like where they wanted to go with things, So is this him? Like, is it Ryan being like, because what if the story group was like, so this is what we kind of have an idea of what Snoke is. This is kind of an idea of his motivations. But like you tend to say a lot, James, and I think it's worth noting, is like, it's all about kind of the casual audience. It's all you need to know about Snoke is that he's the bad guy, really. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, we're obsessed about it, but for the fabric of your story, you just need to know he's the bad guy. So, do you think it's Rian Johnson being? Because I do think Rian Johnson's the kind of guy that would be like, I want everyone to think that the heroes they've been worshiping, that known as the Jedi, were actually villains. What? Like, that does seem like a Rian Johnson move, but I don't know if it seems like a Rian Johnson move to be like, he's this entity that is the Force coming back to take, you know what I mean?
Well, that JJ or Michael Arndt or whoever invented Snoke. Do we know who invented Snoke? Like, who was Snoke's original, like, his name, like, if he was in the Michael Arndt script, his name was probably Susu or something different, and then they changed it to Snoke. But it depends on who created Snoke. Like, if Abrams and Kazan were like, Snoke's the bad guy, then that's it.
Yeah.
Then who knows? And that's a huge possibility, because exactly what you just said, the casual fans. If you're watching The Force Awakens, anything about Snoke is irrelevant to anything. He is the bad guy, and the two main bad guys report to him. And that's all you need to know. And that's fine. That's Palpatine right there in New Hope when they mention the Emperor, and then in Empire Strikes Back when you see him. You don't need to know his backstory. You don't need 1, 2, and 3 for Palpatine right there. You're fine knowing that he is just the big bad guy in the galaxy.
Right. Yeah.
Andrew? You
So,
created Snoke.
Yeah, I did create Snoke. He's sorry. The question's about like whether or not he was a Rian Johnson creation.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like where I was going with it, but it's more like, I guess the real question is, when they created this character, do you think they had that figured out, or were they just like, this is our placeholder bad? It's like, you know what I mean? Is he just a token bad guy? And then Rian Johnson.
I think at first that's exactly what it was, because if you just look at the way he looks in The Force Awakens, he is such a blank slate. Like, he is literally just like a human form, no hair, scars, black robe in a throne. Like, there is so much you could do with him, but he is so basic to start off with that it leaves room to play with. It's like they made a dude out of Play-Doh, and they're like, we can keep adding Play-Doh, but we didn't make him out of marble because we know we're going to be moving things around. So he looked very basic at the forefront because of that. That was when my friend saw Force Awakens, he saw it a little bit before me, and he called me and he was telling me about it. He said, my only complaint, he said, is I don't like the way Snoke looked. He looked so plain. He just looked like Voldemort, just like a pale guy in a black robe. So I think that the way, just the basic sheer stock villain look of Snoke that we got in Episode 7 was not so much like a lazy move or anything like that, but it was just, it was a necessity because they needed to figure out, okay, who is this guy going to be? Let's give ourselves room to stretch him out.
Sure.
I find it strange that in The Force Awakens, Snoke looks like it could have just been an actor in makeup, and now what we're hearing about his appearance in The Last Jedi, 9 feet tall, now he's a puppet.
Yeah.
I feel like they reversed what they should have been. He could easily have been a puppet in a practical effect in one, and now it seems like he should be motion capture. And you cast Andy Serkis because of his. You definitely cast him for his motion capture performances, and now he's not going to be motion capture anymore. Which I'm sure he doesn't give. I'm sure he actually wants to be seen on screen every once in a while. Like,
aren't they mocapping him still too though?
He's probably like 50-50. But I heard he's 9 feet. I heard they had like 5 or 9 puppeteers working on his costume.
Like it's really just going to be absurd.
But he's not in it that much either.
Yeah.
So maybe
Which
Rian
is
Johnson
good, actually.
Maybe he didn't even write Snoke. Maybe Trevorrow's going to have
Maybe
to
that's
write
just
Snoke.
that thing they just keep passing on. They're like, I don't want to friggin' deal with that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Trevorrow,
Eventually be Gareth.
it.
Yeah, and then Gareth Edwards will end up with it. Ron Howard will be directing the Snoke.
Yeah, I know, right? And then he'll put a Twitter video up and be like, this is what I think of Snoke. Throw something away.
Hey, he just posted that picture of Chewbacca and Chewbacca's wife, so look out. Oh, you haven't seen that? Spoiler alert. Have you seen it, Josh?
No, but you know what? They need to scrap Han Solo. Look, this Disney film. Here's what you do. You scrap Han Solo and you make a documentary about how you couldn't make the Han Solo movie. It would be A, probably far more entertaining. B, like it would have more of a mass appeal because you get not even Star Wars people that just are like obsessed with the Hollywood process. You know what I mean? And you can use all the stuff Lord and Miller shot and show us, embarrass the hell out of them, still pay them. Yeah, I think it's the perfect thing. Have you guys ever seen the movie Lost in La Mancha?
No.
It's about Terry Gilliam trying to make the Don Quixote movie.
Oh, no.
It's
he finally finished it, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I heard, which is crazy.
Have you seen that one on the Boondock Saints, on the guy that made Boondock Saints?
No.
What's that documentary called? Oh, that one's fantastic because he was just a guy who worked in a bar. Yep. And Harvey Weinstein showed up to the bar one day in Boston.
Yep.
He's like, I have a script, and gave Weinstein the script, and Weinstein was like, I love it. And he bought him the bar, apparently, and gave him money to make the movie. And he just like, oh man, it's bad. he screws everything up like all the way. The movie's a great movie too, but like just so he hires like his friends to do a documentary on him once he gets the chunk of money from Weinstein, and so they're making this documentary on him. So every moment that he does anything is on tape. I'm guessing it's tape back then, and man, he flames out. It's pretty.
It's not easy to make these movie things, from what I hear.
No, well, this guy, no, this guy was overconfident. It's a great documentary though. It is actually really good. So sidetracked on that one. So Han Solo is going to be the best Star Wars film to date.
Hey, look, it's possible. Apparently, it's the best script to date. But guess what? Scripts aren't movies, Kasdan.
Well, then that's why they fired their directors.
Yeah.
Well, I was just watching a movie the other day, and I was like, I could tell this was a better script. I can't remember what movie it was. But I'm like, this is a way better script. I just know that watching it.
Yeah, Natural Born Killers, maybe.
Yeah. Well, there's one of them, but that wasn't the one I was just watching. Anyway, let's wrap this bad boy up with what were your final thoughts on the D23 reel? Let's just end it with that. Josh.
I thought it was awesome. Look, those aliens are cool. I can't believe we didn't do a full flying casual about the little alien from Canto Bight, who I'm damn sure is going to be the boss.
That's a porg.
Oh, that's next?
Yeah, that's next. We will be doing that next week. Yeah.
All right, good. No, it's awesome. It showcases so much cool stuff. They worked really hard on this film. I believe in the product. I think it's going to be great. It might be the film we deserve and not the film we want, though. So I'm nervous but excited.
Andrew?
Yeah, it gave me a lot of goosebumps, a lot of questions. I mean, I really got to go back and freeze frame a lot of stuff. Like I don't know who that was doing this giant air flip over a table that looked kind of like that's a pretty Jedi-esque flip. So I don't know what's going on there.
It was James.
It was.
It was. I've seen him do that at parties. And he starts going. So yeah, I gotta really dig into that more and just stop and look at everything. But everything beautiful, crisp, nice. The colors just pop. I can't wait.
Dude,
my favorite shot.
Oh no, go ahead. You're probably gonna say it.
No, I definitely not, because my favorite part is just that shot on Acto Millennium Falcon, Chewie by the campfire. 100%. That is pretty
cool.
Shot.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Yeah. My favorite part was at the end where he's like, "It's a wrap."
That's a wrap. Yeah. That was fantastic. Yeah, that was cool. All right, guys. We just flew casual. It was a lot of fun. Andrew, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Facebook at Andrew Fantasia, and very infrequently on the Twitter at the same handle.
Yeah, he's not going to respond to you if you tweet at him, because he still hasn't responded to my tweet from 5 months ago.
Only if you do tag Big Daddy, then I'll respond.
Yeah, look, and here's the thing. The unspoken truth is he will respond to you, viewer. He just likes all of you more than James. So
exactly.
That's a spoken truth. Josh, where can everybody find you?
Well, you can find me on this channel, the Rebel Scum Podcast, often, because I like talking Star Wars with these cats. You can also check out my YouTube channel, The Den of Nerds. We're ramping up our coverage of all things Marvel and DC as we head towards San Diego Comic-Con. I'm pretty hyped on all that stuff.
Yeah, your coverage of D23 was awesome. Looking forward to your Comic-Con. You can find me at Petsafina everywhere, including PS4, where you can kick my butt at Battlefront. All right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Yep. May the force of others be with you.
Sometimes. I mean, always.
Frequently.
It's a wrap.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.